what I think about these days is that we've spent the last 20-some years, maybe since the publication of D'Souza's Illiberal Education, which was kind of the opening shot in the PC wars, working on the supply side of speech codes and censorship, both on campus and off campus, which is to say, trying to batten down the many efforts that would pop up to pass speech codes, many of which originated from faculties. It seems to me that where we, the free speech side of things, have not only failed, but haven't even really tried successfully, is dealing with the demand side. Because it seems that that's now where the problem is. Demand coming up from the grassroots, otherwise known as students, but not only students, for restrictions on speech. That's where we have to look next, and I'm not sure what to do about it. I think about it a lot, and I think it's time for a lot of good minds to start thinking about it. With the help and inspiration of James McIntyre, who's here today, who's an intern at Brookings, I did a little survey of Brookings interns. This is completely unscientific. The sample is laughably small. It's only 17. So don't draw any large conclusions from this. But what I think I learned is very consistent with what we're seeing elsewhere. Let me just, if it's all right, I'll just take a minute to give sort of the broad outlines of what came through. These are all students, undergraduates at elite universities. The first thing I learned is that students are worried about the consequences of candor. 53% of them, a majority, are often or sometimes reluctant to speak frankly because of social consequences. A large majority, over 70%, have witnessed or experienced inappropriate attempts to close down a conversation or intimidate a conversationalist, or they have witnessed or experienced being told to check their privilege or not to participate in some way. But here's where it got a little bit interestingly. They're not very worried about formal consequences. A third or fewer agree that they might be penalized, for example, formally or lose a grade, and very few have witnessed or experienced anyone being threatened with formal sanctions or investigation. So what are they worried about? Well, they're worried about social consequences. They see this as coming from their peers. They are conflicted about hate speech. 63% of them say that students are overreactive and too sensitive. On the other hand, they split into thirds on whether to allow hate speech or ban hate speech or don't know. So they don't know what to do about that. Shouting down is controversial. There's a lot of consensus on other messages. They all support peaceful picketing, silent protests. None supports violence. 2/3 oppose blocking access to speakers. I wish that were 100%, but it's still reasonably high. But opinion is very divided on shouting down. So a lot of people think that's okay. Not everyone. It's controversial. A lot of think it's okay. So what's going on here? Well, what they're experiencing is that they report constraints on campus discourse coming from other students. 41% see what they think might be a violation of the First Amendment or its spirit. 47% say intolerance of divergent opinions has affected my personal educational experience a great deal or somewhat. This is stuff that they are witnessing and feeling, and it's coming from their peer group. They're being told, no, don't say that. You're not entitled to say it. Interestingly, they think the problem is worse for other students than for themselves. Much as people think their own congressman is okay, but all the others are scoundrels. So although slightly under half say they're personally affected, 2/3 or so say that other students are affected, a great deal or somewhat. More than that say it's affected campuses generally. So it's more about other people than themselves. So what's the bottom line about all this? Well, this is affecting a lot of people in their daily lives. This is affecting how they value and experience their education on a day-to-day basis. No question about it.